Hi, we're Quentin Curious Volumes. My name is James. Today is Thursday. It's a gloomy, dark day. We have the outer edges of Hurricane Helene on its way, so it's going to be rainy all day, probably tomorrow as well. But it's Thursday, Poetry Thursday. I've been doing it for a couple of months now. I think I'm gonna keep at it. And since it's also the month of September, or the framed event here on BookTube, where people are doing videos that pertain to art, reading biographies of artists and books about art history, and uh, doing little vlogs of their trips to the museum, I thought I would read some more poetry about art. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I read a pretty well-known poem about art by W.H. Auden called Musée de Beaux-Arts, that starts, "About suffering, they were never wrong, the old masters. How well they understood its human position, how it takes place while someone else is eating or opening a window or just walking dully along." And then the other day, I was reading this book that I've been working my way through for quite a while, the Selected Poems of Randall Jarrell. It's not a lot to it, but I pick it up every couple of weeks. And this week I finished it, and it has some poems in towards the end of it. Now, Jarrell died when he was 51, so he published a lot of books in that time, poetry and criticism and translations, uh, nonetheless. So I'm going to read some of his later poetry that does pertain to art, and one of them is sort of in dialogue with that Auden poem. Auden was a big influence on Randall Jarrell, and Jarrell just basic outlines. He was born in 1914 in Tennessee, and he uh, taught literature and writing at a number of different schools, and then during World War II, he joined the new Army Air Force, and wrote probably his most famous poem, "The Death of the Ball Turret Gunner." After that, he returned to teaching at Sarah Lawrence, and then at uh, what was then called the University of North Carolina Women's College, which is now called UNC, University of North Carolina at Greensboro. That's a school that I also taught at briefly. And Gerald died in the 1960s. He was struck by a car. There's some controversy over whether it was accidental or suicidal. He had been suffering from depression for a long time, so it's a bit unclear. Suffices to say, a productive life cut short. And anyway, so this poem, "The Old and the New Masters," which, bear in mind that opening line from Auden, "About suffering, they were never wrong, the old masters." So here is Gerald's poem, "The Old and the New Masters." About suffering, about adoration, the old masters disagree. When someone suffers, no one else eats or walks or opens the window. No one breathes, and as sufferers watch the sufferer. In "Saint Sebastian Mourned" by Saint Irene, that's a title, the flame of one torch is the only light. All the eyes except the maidservant's, she weeps and covers them with a cloth, are fixed on the shaft set in his chest like a column. Saint Irene's hands are spread in the gesture of the Madonna, revealing, accepting what she does not understand. Her hands say, "Lo, behold!" Beside her a monk's hooded head is bowed. His hands are put together in the work of mourning. It is as if they were still looking at the lance piercing the side of Christ, nailed on his cross. The same nails pierce all their hands and feet. The same thin blood mixed with water trickles from their sides. The taste of vinegar is on every tongue that gasps, my God, why hast thou forsaken me?" They watch, they are the one thing in the world. So earlier, Everything is pointed in Van der Gogh's Nativity toward the naked, shining baby, like the needle of a compass. The different orders and sizes of the world, the angels like little people perched in the rafters or hovering in midair like hummingbirds, the shepherds so big and crude, so plainly adoring, the medium-sized donor, his little family and their big patron saints, the virgin who kneels before her child in worship, the magi out in the hills with their camels, they ask directions and have pointed out by a man kneeling the true way. The ox and the donkey, two heads in the manger so much greater than the human head, who also adore. Even the offerings, a sheaf of wheat, a jar and a glass of flowers, are absolutely still in natural concentration as they take their part in the salvation of the natural world. The time of the world concentrates in this one instant. Far off in the rocks, you can see Mary and Joseph and their donkey coming to Bethlehem. On the grassy hillside where their flocks are gathering, the shepherds gesticulate in wonder at the star. And so many hundreds of years in the future, the donor, his wife, and their children are kneeling, looking. Everything that was or will be in the world is fixed on its small, helpless human center. After a while, the masters show the crucifixion in one corner of the canvas. The men come to see what is important, see that it is not important. The new masters paint a subject as they please, and Veronese is prosecuted by the Inquisition for the dogs playing at the feet of Christ. The Earth is a planet among galaxies. Later, Christ disappears, the dogs disappear. In abstract understanding, without adoration, the last master puts color on canvas, a picture of the universe in which a bright spot somewhere in the corner is a small radioactive planet men called Earth. So that is The Old and the New Masters by Randall Jarrell. So obviously, he's going through some similar depictions that Auden was writing about of nativities, crucifixions, and then coming through the revolutions of the 1950s and 60s with abstraction, abstract expressionism, minimalism, neoplasticism, if you will. So just a nice kind of little poem about art history by Randall Jarrell for you today. Thanks for watching.